Hi, I'm just about to publish my fourth crime novel, The Death of an Invisible Man, and I thought I'd take a few minutes to talk about where the idea came from, particularly for my rather unusual main character, Hari Yehuda Felatu. Um, it all goes back really to me publishing my previous novel, Car Wheels on a Gravel Drive, and I was just starting to think really of what I might start writing for my next novel. I didn't really have much ideas, except I knew I wanted something that had a bit more of a historical span to it than the novels that I'd written so far. All the previous novels I'd written had basically been set during my own lifetime, from the 1970s roughly up until 2000s. And the advantage of that for me, apart from anything else, was that I didn't really have to do much research for those novels because obviously they were mostly set around times and places that I knew very well. I did do the occasional little bit, but I tried to avoid it as much as possible. And part of the reason for that was that I'm rather suspicious of novels that rely on rather heavily on research. Obviously, historical novels have to be well researched, but it's really a matter of the authors managing to make light of their research in the actual writing and ensure that they are writing something that's a work of the imagination and fictional rather than something which in the end could have just as easily been written as a history book, a non-fiction work. And very often I feel that some writers of historical novels particularly simply put too much of the research in and forget about using their imagination. And you just think they're really just showing you just how well they know the period rather than how well they can tell a story. Anyway, I thought that if I could write something with a bit more historical scope to it, maybe I could test that out myself and see whether I could do some research for a novel, but try and not fall into those traps or pitfalls as I saw them of trying to let the research dominate the novel. But other than that, I really didn't have much idea of what I was going to write about. And then I got up one morning, woke up one morning, and I had this character fully formed in my head. I even had a name for him, which wasn't quite Hari Yehuda Felatu, but it was not far off that. I've got it written down somewhere, and I've forgotten what it was now, but it was close. And I also had his whole sort of life story mapped out in my head. So as soon as I got dressed and had some breakfast, I sat down and I wrote down what I had in my head. I wrote it. I've still got a couple of sides of A4 paper that I wrote it on, as a sort of imaginary Wikipedia entry for him. And it covered his whole life from being born around about 1930 up to the early 2000s. And it's pretty much, with some additions and a few changes, the way his life turns out in the finished novel. And so I set off writing the novel, and I wrote it very much as his found autobiography. And in fact, my initial title for the novel was The Autobiography of an Invisible Man. And as I got part of the way through the novel, quite a way through it, I started to think, well, yeah, why? Where's this come from? Why am I interested in this? And it kind of came to me really that it followed a pattern of the sort of things that I've been interested in my other novels. Mainly the idea of identity. In the classic title of that BBC television series, who do we think we are? Where do we come from? And of course, it fits in with the modern fascination, I would say, with tracing one's ancestry, all these internet sites where you can sign up to get help to form your family trees and look up your ancestors, find out about your ancestors. So that was definitely an interest, and therefore having somebody like Hari Felatu, who I'd created, who, as he claims right at the beginning of his autobiography, he says, "I am unique. I belong to a tribe of one." And then, as I say, as I got some way through it, I kind of realised, or started to think, I know where this has come from, because for all my working life, 35 years, I was a school teacher. I taught English in comprehensive schools, and for the last 20 of those years, I taught at a school called Holland Park School in the centre of London. And Holland Park School was quite famous, one of those early purpose-built comprehensive schools, um, and particularly for a school that kind of had a very, very mixed very, pupils from all different backgrounds. And particularly when I was teaching there from the mid 1980s onwards, it was probably almost certainly the most multilingual, multi-ethnic, multinational school in London, and therefore in the United Kingdom. In fact, in the local authorities survey of languages spoken in schools, at one time it had 88 different languages spoken by the pupils in the school. And so I was used to the fact that when new pupils arrived at the school, as they did right the way through the school period, often coming in as either refugees or just generally immigrants from abroad, I would sort of almost tick off little boxes in my head to say, oh, there's somebody from somewhere that I've never taught a pupil from before, or that's a language I've never come across before. And I was doing that, was happening all the time. And then I remembered one particular student who had stuck in my memory. She was a young woman. At the time I was thinking of, she was about 15 years old, I think. I taught her English for a few years. And she was also in my tutor set. That's the group, the class that I would register every morning when they arrived at school and keep their registration details. And she was a very quiet girl. And she was very small, very thin, almost looked like she was anorexic, although I don't think she was. She had a whole mass of flame red hair and very pale white skin. Now, if I tried to guess at her ancestry, I'd possibly have said she had some Irish ancestry within her family. I didn't really know. I know she lived with her single mother, and I'd met her mother at parents' evenings. Her mother had a basic London accent as she did. Didn't show any signs of any particular different sort of ethnic background. Anyway, didn't think any really more about her until one day, after I'd taken the register first thing in the morning and the class was about to go off to their different lessons, she came up to me and said, "Sir, I should give you some new contact details for me to put in the register because I'm about to go and live with my father for 6 months. I can't remember the reason. It may be, I think her mother might have been going abroad for work, or she might have had to go into hospital for an operation or something. Anyway, there was some reason why she had to go and live with her father for 6 months. Now, I'd never known about her father. I'd only ever seen her mother at parents' evenings. I'd never been aware of her father being around, but, okay, that was fine. So I got a piece of paper and she gave me an address for her father and a telephone number. And then I said to her, what's his name? And she said, Jobert. I said, oh, Jobert. Is that, I started writing it down. Is that Joubret? Is he French? And she said, oh, no, it's not that. It's two words. She said, it's Jobert. Joe, Joe, and then a new word, bear, Bear, Jobert. He's Native American. And bang, in my head, there's another tick, another ethnicity, another mix that I hadn't come across before. And I think that's probably, I didn't really think about this, as I say, it definitely wasn't foremost in my head at the time that I came up with Harry Fellowtoo and with his odd background, but I'm sure that it fed into it. Of course, she's not a sort of tribe of one in a way, because if you go to the States, obviously there's lots of people with mixed Native American and white ancestry, but in a London schooling in London, probably not that usual at the time. So anyway, that just gives you a little bit of a background of how the character of, I think, Harry Yehuda Fellowtwo first came into my head.